my mother was always steeped in Pint of Pints, and then my dad was as well. When we were younger, it was a kind of family outing, so it was Dromoland, and it was all the stalls and the atmosphere and the hunt race, and it was always very exciting, you know, to go to Dromoland, and you know, to get to know jockeys that were riding at the time, and you know, to see good horses running around and winning, and then watching them being competitive in the big stages, watching them going on to be Cheltenham and Aintree and Punchestown and Leopardstown, and you know, that got me hooked. And I suppose it was always in me as well now, a little bit, to be honest, because of my mother's association. She was race riding in the 60s, the late 60s, but I think it was a kind of a difficult period for lady riders at the time, and she done quite well for 4 or 5 years riding for Tom, and I suppose a lot of people talk highly of her. She was possibly hardy kind of rider, and she'd stand up to the fellas, and she'd a lot of respect from male riders, which was very difficult for a lady rider at the time, you know. And there was a good bunch of lady riders, Anne Ferris, Helen Bryce Smith. There was more. It's shameful that I can't name them, but there was a period that kind of stamped her authority, and then lady riders became more accepted after that. I also had people talking to me about my mother and what she'd done and what she achieved as a jockey. So it kind of always was something I took great pride out of, and I hope I can instill that into my kids, you know. I'd love to think that in 30 or 40 years' time, when Derek O'Connor isn't riding horses and has nothing got to do with horses, possibly there's people saying nice things about me, and my kids will get a little bit of enthusiasm for it, and a graw for racing, or a graw for whatever they want to do in life, you know. My dad was a cattle dealer, so we all kind of went down that farming road for a while, but it's like what I was saying, you'd always get dragged back into horses, no matter if it's in your system or it's in your blood, you'd always get dragged back into horses. It's an incredible kind of drug. So next thing, a couple of hunters started coming around the place, and I bought my own first pony when I was kind of 10 or 11, maybe that kind of age, and I'd very little done before that, you know. So my brother Pádraig was dealing in horses at the time, and he was going hunting. I started going hunting. My mother was hunting. My sister Loretta had done a little bit. Sean, my brother, done a little bit. So we all kind of had a little bit of a toe in the water for years and years, to be honest. But we're in a great community now, because there's some couple of great families. There was the Fallons, the Kellys, the Stauntons. John Staunton, who's training today, he was our next door neighbour. There was always a lot of horses and great families in the area that we used to always meet up and have good sport, you know, and really enjoyable sport, you know. So that kind of started the whole thing rolling, to be honest. I wanted to go into a racing yard, so I'd spent a couple of weeks in different yards, summer jobs, Jimmy Mangan, and I don't know, to be honest, there was a couple of different places around, and Costlows for a while, John Brazel for a while. But the Miss O'Sullivan would be Eugene's mother. I think she put an advert in the Cork Examiner, and I seen it, and I rang up looking for a job. So jobs weren't, there was no shortage of staff back then, you know. There was loads of staff everywhere. So to get a job, you had to put your neck on the line a little bit. You know, it wasn't, if you ring looking for a job now, they'll go and collect you and bring you back to the yard, you know. But back then you had to put your neck in the line. So I had to talk myself up a little bit. Jeez, I'm not too bad to ride, and a load of hunting done and this and that. But matter of fact, I was a very weak rider and no experience riding racehorses or anything. But I went down there anyhow, and I was blessed, because wasn't I sharing a room with Davy Russell, and Brendan O'Sullivan was a very good amateur rider at the time, and William O'Sullivan, would be Eugene's brother, was a very good amateur. So I went straight into the thick of it among good lads, and you know, I was cared for unbelievably. I'll never ever forget Mr. Sullivan. What a lady! She was cook me dinner every day and wash my clothes, and she was an amazing woman. And I was living in the house just off the yard, so it was a home away from home, to be honest. So after homesickness used to beat me, alright, and I'd want to come home every weekend if I could. But that went after a while, and next thing, it was wonderful, yeah. In a great community with good lads and taken care of properly. It was a nice period of my life now, yeah. I was with O'Sullivan for 2 years, and I came back home to Pat and John Lynch. So I spent another 2 winters there. Again, I was spoiled rotten as a young lad, to be honest. Pat and John Lynch are the 2 nicest men you'll ever meet. And Pat's wife, Ida, breakfast, dinner, lunch every day. Honest to God. I don't know how I'm a jockey after spending 2 years there, because she just take care of you 100%. You have best of food, best of care. And you'd be treated like a son there. I was never treated like an employee there. You get in fucking plenty of hard work now. But I don't think I ever got a bollocking. Never ever given out to. But if you work hard, I always felt I was appreciated, and she's was a lovely place to work. And for a young fella, instead of going into the big commercial yards, your Gordon Ellis, your William Munns of nowadays, sometimes you can be lost. I'd always recommend young riders to go into small communities if they can, because you're looked after better. And then if you're among people that have your best interests at heart, that's very important. In the big yards, I find that you'll often be just a number. You're just a paycheck at the end of the week, a fella doing a job. In the small yards, I definitely benefited greatly from the 2 jobs I had. Eugene O'Sullivan's was lovely, and the Lynch's was exceptional. Very first ride was a mare called Telquel. She was by Telquel. I can't think of her name. Fell at the first fence. Yeah, and the owner was a local man, Dermot Murphy. He allowed me to ride her again the second Sunday, and we fell at the second fence. So, in fairness to him now, I didn't say a word. He had to jock me off, and she didn't win, but she ran a cracker then the third Sunday. I think she was second or something like that, and he got her sold. So that finished me and that mare. But that was very early on now. I was probably a very poor rider early on now, because I'd done all hunting. Everything I'd done was hunting. I was telling you a story earlier about show jumping. I got to jump 2 jumps one day, show jumping, and the mare that I was riding refused. And the hunting man broke out in me anyhow, and after she refused, and I hit her a couple of belts of the stick, and next thing the siren went off, and I was disqualified. I had to leave the jumping arena. So that I never had to grow off for show jumping. But we had a great hunt here locally called the Turkey Trotters. So that started off very small. That started off with me and 4 or 5 of my mates on ponies meeting up on a Sunday when we'd nothing else to do, and going whatever direction, jumping walls and ditches and hedges. And next thing, 5 or 6 ponies ended up being 10 or 12 ponies and a few adults. And next thing, it ended up being 20 horses and maybe 25 horses. And so we had to put a bit of organisation into it then. And there was my mother Jean, Ger Kelly, Tom Hollern, Noel Hollern, Damien Egan, Declan Divney. There was a little group of people came together, so we started organising days. So we'd go to the pub in Tubber today, the pub in Crusheen next Sunday, the pub in Gortas following Sunday. So that kept growing now. That ended up being 4 or 5 ponies up to 100 horses of a Sunday. And what was lovely about that, so there was no money ever made there. So we charged cap every Sunday. But what we used to do was, so if it was in Tubber, so whatever money would be left over, so there'd be soup and sandwiches that evening. All the local farmers would get their drinks paid for in the bar, and what would happen with the excess money then would be donated to the school or to the church or to whatever foundation in that area needed a few pound. So there was never any money made out of it, but there was great will in from the local farmers to allow us in. So we covered unbelievable country and jumped everything we wanted to jump. It was a kind of a free-for-all, and I had great experience riding from that. That was a real purple period of my life. It was a brilliant period of my life, yeah. First winner, Rossi Orchestra. Rossi Orchestra in Killaloe for Pat and John Lynch. So I was working with Pat and John Lynch at the time, and this filly she was for sale. I was working below Eugene O'Sullivan's, and she came up for sale. I think it was £1,000 I bought her for. And actually, I didn't have the money at the time. I was only starting out work and I had no money. So my brother Sean bought her for me. So that was the start of it. And I used to ride her out before I'd start work below in Sullivan's. So I rented a stable down the road, and I used to cycle down and ride her out every morning before I'd start work. So that I got her to be placed a couple of times, but it was only when I brought her home and I moved job. I moved from Eugene O'Sullivan, and I started working with Pat and John Lynch in Newmarket and Fergus, so she came there with me then, and they trained her to win in Killaloo. So that was nice. She won by a distance, but the style, or there's nothing nice about that, you know. It was very rough and ready, but we got the job done anyhow. Yeah. Lara, I don't know. I can't say why I improved. I think there's a lot of graft. I don't think anything happens naturally for anybody. You have to graft at everything, to be honest, I think. So there was a lot of hard work, a lot of miles, a lot of driving, and I made myself available to everyone that wanted me. And I was very appreciative of every opportunity. And I think it just kept progressing from there on. Do you know, after I finished with the Lynches that time, I've never really worked for anyone since. I've nearly always been freelance. I've always made myself as available as I possibly could to everybody. There was a real purple patch where there was a lot of horses in the country during, you know, the boom times. So everybody had horses. Every small farmer, trainer, handler, breeder, everyone seemed to have a racehorse. And where I used to do an unbelievable amount of work is in Boulta. So the schooling facilities in Boulta. So I used to always try and bring someone with me because I'd never be able to cover a full day's work in Boulta. But Owen Mahan used to come with me I think we used to go like every Wednesday without fail. So that was the day that I'd go to Boulta, and everyone that wanted to use me or use me for schooling used to come on a Tuesday or Wednesday or whatever day I was there. And Owen used to come with me. So we'd often get to Boulta at 7:30 in the morning, and we'd, you know, I'd have a good bit of thought put into the process for the day, and I'd have everyone kind of spaced out a half an hour a horse, and I've often done nothing else for the full day. I've often ridden 16, 17, 18 horses in Boulta, covered 3 miles, 15 fences, race-like situation, and hand back the horse, have a little chat with the owner or the trainer, whoever was there, and just give them feedback on the horse and move on to the next one. But I rode some amount of winners because of it. So, you know, I'm not saying I trained them horses, but I aided massively in the training of them. And we'd work together again a little bit like that happens nowadays for me. Once you have people working with you or working for you, even as the case may be, makes life very easy. Makes very, very easy work. Davey went to Ferdy Murphy, and it was a bit strange. I think it was mid-season he went off to Ferdy Murphy's, and John Thomas was left to reel him in that year in the championship. I think he did too, to be honest. And then I stepped up to the mark, and it was me and John Thomas for a couple of years. And then Jamie Codd came on the scene. So myself and Jamie had unbelievable tussles for, God, we had 8 or 9 years. Just tussles, unbelievable. Yeah, a couple of crosswords here and there, but nothing major, you know, nothing major. But I had 10 titles in a row, and Jamie Codd, we went to Ballingarry then in the 11th one, and Jamie Codd was a couple of winners ahead of me, and he did great Ballingarry, and he was champion. And do you know what? I'm delighted he was, because we had an unbelievable 10 years or 8 years tussling for championships, and he deserved it. He absolutely deserved it. He rode outstanding the same season. He never missed a beat, never missed a race meet, never missed a race, and he actually deserved that. First winner in the track was Megsy here for Paul Linehan, who hasn't, who's ceased training now. I think it's broodmares and a little stud he has now down in County Waterford. But she won a bumper for me in Clonmel, and Paul left me on her, which was very kind of him. And I won a maiden hurl on her then on her second run. And he had a good horse, he had a good 3-mile chaser called Rio Diamond. And it was all right if he wasn't nearly my third winner, you know that. Paul was exceptionally good to me now in my early days, yeah. In Cheltenham, it's very important for a jockey because people refer to Cheltenham as how well you've achieved as a jockey. You know, if you rode Cheltenham winners, you've done very well as a jockey. Is it something that I long for every March? Not really, no. I take it or leave it 9 times out of 10, but I think it's very important to establish a profile as a jockey. So there has to be a Cheltenham, there has to be a Punchestown. But if I was given a choice to ride a Punchestown winner or a Cheltenham winner, I love Punchestown. Oh, Lord, it's unbelievable, yeah. I think I love Punchestown because they're so down to earth. You know, you've got your Banks races, your Bishop's Court Cup, you've got your Hunter Chases, you've got all them bumpers. Punchestown is grassroots to me, and they do a wonderful job taking care of the amateur rider. And if I was given a choice of any course in Ireland, Galway obviously because it's so close to me, but Punchestown is incredible. Chicago Grey 2011, and I have Zimski out there. I rode a double the same year, so Chicago Grey was very special. Gordon Elliott's first winner, owned by friends of mine. So that was a great reception altogether. And then that was on the Tuesday, and Zimski on the Friday in the Hunter's Chase. So that was even, do you know, Zimski was a very special horse as well, because he went in as an underachiever. We always thought he was very good, and Ian got him qualified through a hole in the system. To be honest, we had to go over to Musselburgh to win a Hunter's Chase to get him qualified for Cheltenham, because he couldn't win 2 Opens here in Ireland. He was after losing getting beat a couple of Opens, and he failed to get him qualified. So because Ronnie Bartlett owned him, he was able to get an English Hunter cert, qualify him for a Hunter's Chase in Musselburgh. There was a bike race, and he wins it. Next thing, he's qualified for Cheltenham. So he was an underachiever until Cheltenham, because he always seemed to have a lot of ability, but he never really used to stay out his races. And I dropped him in Cheltenham and rode him as if he wasn't off, and just came home unbelievably well. Yeah, won by 15 lengths or something for a finish. I won it on Ballinasloe for Graham McKeever. Yeah, Ballinasloe is a horse we bought in Doncaster. It came up for sale. He was in the Gigginstown Dispersal, and I was after winning a point on him as a young horse. And Graham McKeever, the owners, was looking for a horse, and I said, Jesus, he could be the one. He was exceptionally good as a young horse. And then he was in all them big training facilities. He was in Gordon Elliott's, and he was winning Mullins, and he was never that type of horse. And it just goes to show he was always a bit kind of sheepish about everything he'd do. You put him beside a horse in a race and he'd be scared of him, and I'd say them big environments never suited him. And Graham just turned him inside out. He was unbelievable. He gave me a spin around Aintree that day that I'll never forget. The opportunities aren't there that once were there. Do you know, you'd be talking about getting opportunities. I often remember going racing, so you'd have 6 race cards, you'd have 6 rides. That'd be fine. But then the 4-year-old maiden would divide 3 ways or 4 ways. Next thing you have a ride in every division. The mare's maiden would divide, the 5-year-old maiden would divide, the winner's race could possibly divide, the older maiden could divide 5 times. There was particular days there with 15 and 16 races around Portlaw and around Lisrone and up to Lochamoore. There could be 15 races. Incredible amount of horses to run. So there was great opportunities for young riders to get spins, and it didn't make a difference. You didn't have to be Jamie Codd or John Thomas or Davy Russell or Derek O'Connor. It filtered all the way down. Like I used to purposely sit just inside the door. I've always sat just inside the door of every point tent I've ever rode at, and it was a habit I picked up very early in life, because if you're first inside the door, you're the first man they're going to ask. So I got asked to ride more horses every day. It was incredible. Yeah, and I purposely sit inside the door every day I go racing. I don't know why I do it anymore, but I got to go backwards in the tent from now on. But in the busy times, that was it. A trainer put his head in the door. You were the first man they'd see. Derek, can you ride in the 2nd division of the 4-year-old maiden? Yes. Yeah, run out as quick as you could with the programme. See if there's any form. See if there's anything better in the race to ride. And if there wasn't, you'd say yes, no problem. Yeah. You talk about Ed Wolfe. That was a special day in Leopardstown. That was a very special day in Leopardstown. Yeah, because it was a grade 1, and it was for Mr. McManus, and I ended up getting Ride of the Year for it. It was a very special day. Myself and Carl were pinting down in Ballinaboula the same day, and I was touch and go whether I even wanted to go to Leopardstown the same day. I had a full book of point rides in Ballinaboula, and then I was saying, oh God, I have to go to Leopardstown to ride in a chase. And I was thinking of the 5-year-old mare's maiden, like in Ballinaboula, and I was going off to Leopardstown. But we done it anyhow, but we weren't blessed with time now. So we were rushing up the road, myself and Carl, and so we got into Leopardstown maybe 35-40 minutes before the big race, and I didn't get a chance to walk the track or anything, just handed out a saddle to Joseph, and it all happened very fast. The horse just coasted around, jumped from fence to fence, and we just landed there in time. Yeah. No, never crossed my mind, ever. No, the draw from Point of Points was outweighed everything else. Yeah, never really thought of anything other than it. There was a period of time when I was younger, I was finding it very hard to get going. I'd say between the job in Eugene O'Sullivan's and maybe the Lynch's around that period, I went back to do my leaving cert to give myself another option if the racing didn't take off. But thankfully the racing took off, so I didn't need the leaving cert. Yeah. I was doing it part-time inside in St. Flannan's College in Innis. The principal allowed me to do it part-time, so I was studying away in the evenings and that, but thankfully I didn't need it. Oh, jeekers. Drummahan, without fail. Like, God, had some great days there. It used to be a better track if without being over hard on Billy O'Brien. They run a lot of meetings there now. So when there used to be less racing, Drummahan used to be a lovely track. You'd track around for 2 miles or 2.5 miles. You'd follow the leaders, and then I used to always pull wide and come up against the outside wing in Drummahan. It was like written in stone. And you come up there on fresh ground, and you'd always finish out a race better than your opponents on the inside. You come up there on fresh. You look a bit silly going across the track when you turn in. You'd give away a bit of ground, but it's like we see with Patrick Mullins and bumpers. If you're travelling on good ground, you're going to be travelling faster than the fella inside you on the bad ground. So whatever ground you give away, you'd make it up again, you know. But because there's so much racing there, they keep moving the track in, so that fresh ground that used to be on the outside isn't there anymore, because they keep moving the track in. So it's more difficult now to ride winners around there. But it's good. It's an unbelievable track. 6. Yeah. 6 on 3 occasions. Yeah. Sure, bumpers. If the horse is good enough, you're generally good enough. And there's a bit of tactics in the bumper, but it's more pace. You have to be a good judge of pace in a bumper, and you have to find a bit of nice ground maybe. But it's relatively simple compared to going around over 3 miles over fences, you know. You have to be very tactical aware. You have to be a good rider over an obstacle. You have to get the pace right. You have so much things to get right in a pint. And you have to be conscious of everyone around you, because you could be green horses or green riders, and there's 15 fences in 3 miles and soft ground or good ground or whatever. There's a lot of different factors in a pint. Bumper's relatively easy compared to going around the 4-year-old maiden, let me tell you. This is a property myself and Carl bought 9 years ago. It was a good friend of mine, Joe Gleeson, was selling it, and it was a really lovely deal. We sat down there at that table actually one night, and there was no auctioneers or no solicitors or nothing like that. We sat down there at the table one evening, and this place really suited us. We'd spent a long time looking. We'd spent 2 or 3 years looking for a suitable facility for us to buy, that I could, go down the road of having horses and sheds and gallops and all that. And obviously Carla's local here. She's only 3 or 4 miles over the road. So we wanted to stay local if we could, and rear our kids local, our local schools. And my kids go to the school that I grew up in Lurga. And so it was a godsend really when this place was offered to me. And the way we dealt for it was beautiful. We sat down there at the table and trashed it out one evening. And I went home and had a good think about it. I'd say I came back 2 or 3 nights later, and we settled the deal, and we got to buy the property here. Joe was a hunting man, so some of the sheds were there, the sand arena was there. There was no gallops, so from that point it was different stages, because we were after spending a lot of money buying this place, and so as our budget would allow us, I developed the circular gallop. Was the first thing, so that was year 1, and then every kind of second year I added on a little bit every year. So we went to the school and strip, then added on 2 furlongs onto the straight gallop, and this year, just after finishing, another 2 furlongs onto the straight gallop. So what I have now is 4 furlongs up to the 2 furlong circle with the schooling strip off it. The schooling strip measures a 1.5 furlongs, and it was just by coincidence I met Gavin Cromwell on holidays one day, and he was telling me about his schooling facility, how he works it into the circular gallop. So he'd come off the circle and he'd school down over the fences and back onto the circle again. And he showed me videos and pictures and everything of it, and sent me videos afterwards when we came home. And so that triggered something in me that it's a very French style of schooling, that you're constantly moving. There's no galloping up over 3 fences in a straight line and pulling up, and you're risking injury then when you're pulling up kind of quick and horses fresh and this and that and horses running up behind that. So I didn't like the idea of that. So when I heard about this continuous schooling, that you come off your gallop and school down over your 3 fences or 4 fences or whatever you have, and back onto the gallop again and constantly moving. And I find that for young horses it keeps them very relaxed. It's good for riders. You don't have to be pulling up horses, and you can get into a nice rhythm. And I find it brilliant to get horses relaxed and in the rhythm and jumping. And then it's massive for fitness as well. It's constant work. We could hack maybe over 2 miles, 2.5 miles there, and have 10 or 12 fences jumped, and that's their morning routine then. And it becomes very routine and kind of easy for them. So I really enjoy the facilities we have. The field it's only newly purchased. It's only in the last 8 or 9 months I got to purchase the field, and there was a nice bit of work to be done with it. There was a bit of reclaiming and that. So the surface is not fully settled. I don't like to go that quick around there. So it's 5 furlongs of a circuit around it. So what we do in the field, I'd often like to jump 3 circuits and have a little canter in the flat. So in total, you've 20 furlongs, 2.5 miles covered. Ground is soft, as we've seen there this morning. And again, a little bit back to my idea of the schooling strip. You get into a nice rhythm, you're popping away, and horses behave well. With pointers, first and foremost, they have to behave well and be nice rides. And then they have to jump well, and then their breathing has to relax, and they have to get into a nice rhythm. And I think the field does that for me as well. So I think both work very well together. Sure, I have a little bit of everything going on. That's the thing with me at the moment. I'm in a very privileged position that I'm able to balance it at the moment. So I'm not under any great pressure from any sector. So I can find a nice balance at the moment. So I've been very lucky to have some great associations with different trainers down through the years, both north and south, to be honest. But I suppose one trainer that stands out that's been supplying me with winners from the very start, it would have to be Robert Tyner. We've had some great days together. The Land Rover bumper probably would cap them all. That was an exceptional day in the festival in Punchestown. But Robert has always been exceptional at producing a horse to win the day he'd want him. And God, we've had some great winners, and I was delighted to be a part of the whole team when he was champion trainer. It was 46 winners, a record that still stands today. But that was a great association, all right. Sam Curling is very important to me. He's very loyal, and he's a great trainer of a young horse, and I love getting on his young horse, these nice 4-year-olds, and that gives me a great thrill altogether. And I have the same connection with Elmery Holden. They run a very professional outfit, and they purchase nice 3-year-olds every year that produce nice pointers, so they've produced some really good horses, from the 3 or 4 years, or I'm probably with them 5 or 6 years now. John Bon is the most obvious. Fernilly is very good. Mizor West is coming through. I think Elmery has a Grade 1 winner produced from every year the last 5 years, so that's incredible. And then I freelance a bit. I ride my own. I ride for Mr. McManus a good bit. So they're my connections as a jockey. So that works really well. And none of them put massive pressure on me. So if I'm available of a day, or sometimes we'd work very well together, that if this Sunday wasn't suiting, we'd try and work it out that the same horse would go next Sunday, and I'd try and work with them, and they do work very well with me as well. So I'm very grateful for that, So that still allows me to be a jockey. And the training here, as you see this morning, it's full on. It's very busy here in the morning, but I'm in a good position there. You see the quality of riders that I had this morning. I can participate in the schooling. I don't add an extra dimension to it. I participate the same as the lads do. We do the same things. or I can stand on the ground. You know, there was a lot there that there was an odd number, and I was quite happy to stand on the ground. And I can only imagine, and I'm only just a rookie at the training business now, to be honest, but as a trainer, there's great comfort in having good lads around you. You know, that I don't have to be constantly telling them what to do or what I want them to do on the horses. They have a great knowledge of how to ride and take care of young horses and get them doing things properly. Every one of them lads this morning are licensed jockeys, you know. Any one of them, you'd gladly put any one of them up in a good beginner's chase tomorrow morning, and they'd be more than capable of getting horses around. So from that point of view, the training works well because I have good people around me. The yard works well. Carol, my wife, keeps on top of everything. So all the book work, all the vaccinations, everything. And she works very hard there in the yard for 3 or 4 hours. She does all the cleaning out, all the yard duties that I don't even see, you know. So the lads to ride them, unbelievable comfort. And then everything else is really Carol, to be honest, who takes care of everything else. So you can't even call me a trainer, to be honest. You know, I'm only the name on the licence as such. So everything works very, very well for me. Another dimension then to what I do is I work with Goffs as an agent for Goffs. Now I have a very understanding boss in Tim Kent. So Tim it's solely Goffs UK I work for. So and Tim is my boss, so I have to report to Tim all the time. But there's very little pressure on that job. Only associated to boutique sales really at the moment, and the May sale in Doncaster, which is probably the best sale of the year, to be honest. So that's where all the pointers go. So that's my role in Goffs. I have to represent the company at all stages, you know, and I have to be seen to be very complimentary of the company. But I think that doesn't even qualify as a job, you know. All the personnel within Goffs are very, very easy to deal with and very easy to work with. And myself and Caroline Keneally, Michael Moore cover all the points in Ireland. Jerry McGrath covers them a little bit as well. So on the run up to boutique sales, it's a bit intense trying to source the good horses, but I think we've done a good job in it. You know, we've had very successful sales. Aintree obviously is our highlight in the middle of the spring season there. We've introduced Sandown last year, which was a big success. That was a huge success in Sandown. Now, this year Sandown is not going ahead for different reasons, so we have relocated to Newbury. So we are going, what used to be the Hennessy Gold Cup, now it's called the Coral Gold Cup. It's the first Saturday in December. So we're relocating our boutique sale to Newbury. Now, actually I went over a couple of weeks ago and had a look at the facilities. Everything there is top notch. It's real professional. Best of new facilities, and they're more than accommodating. They're delighted to have a boutique sale there, so they're very accommodating to us. So that'll work well. And on the run up to that, then I have to keep an eye out on all results and contact the trainers or handlers as nice horses win, and offer them places in the sale. And you know, from experience, these handlers want to go to the boutique sales, and if you can guarantee them a good setting and a good race course, they're more than happy to come. In a matter of fact, they'd often be ringing looking for places in the sale. So I think Newbury will offer that. It's a good facility, good race course on a good day's racing. So that's the next big thing for me now in relation to Goffs. I think we have it perfected in Ireland, and to be honest, it's a lot to do with that Wexford stronghold. Colin Bowe, Dennis Murphy, Mick Goff, the Doyle brothers, they really perfected that, and I think the English trainer has seen the benefits of our hard graft. You know, them lads perfected it, they brought to a new level of professionalism. And I think the rest of the country is after catching on because of it. I always remember when I was younger, one of my first good jobs when I was starting to ride nice horses was for Wilson Dennison. And Colin McKeever was of that era of nearly professional commercial trainer. You know, he was one of the first ones. But they still wouldn't have been trained to the same perfection as they're trained today. They'd have been exceptionally well schooled, There'd be great rides, they'd be going around the farms there in Lockhamore, and there'd be brilliant rides and great horses to jump, but they wouldn't have the same fitness level. But there was no need, because the races weren't as competitive. And then gradually over a period of time, everything got a little bit quicker and faster and slicker. And nowadays, you go down to the start in the 4-year-old maiden nowadays. I always remember when I was back that early period with the 4-year-olds, below in Bell Harbour, the first 4-year-old maiden of the year, I used to always ride for Pat Dial. I'd say I rode there for Pat Dial for 12 or 13 years in a row. So we'd blow at the start, and you'd be looking for somebody to make the running with you. You'd be hacking down to the first fence, and you'd be green, and you'd be ducking and diving, and you get the first fence over, and you get the second fence over. Next thing, you'd start building up into a bit of speed, and then you'd be building up into a race. So you'd be gone the bones of a mile before you'd be up at racing speed. But nowadays, you go down to the start, and you've Barry O'Neill, you've Rob James, you've probably Mick Goffs jockeys, on very, very professionally well-schooled horses. And the quickest part of a 4-year-old maiden nowadays is probably down to the first fence, or even down to the second fence. It's just lickety split, because they've just made it so professional, So even though there was always commercial trainers, I think the standard has risen, and the quality of horses. These lads are buying very expensive stores as 3-year-olds, very well reared, out of good farms. A lot of them French, a lot of them Irish. I don't have a graw for either or. I never put much thought into it, but you can be sure they're very well reared horses, and these lads buy the better horses at the sales, so that brings a higher dimension to the whole thing again. They're very, very well trained and exceptionally well schooled, and you know what? The Englishman then to come along and see these horses, well trained, looking $1 million, carrying good bodies on them. And it's very easy for them to pick out the horse that they want. They see a nice 4-year-old after winning well, with a good pedigree, looks well, coming out of a good home, knowing that these horses are well reared as young horses. So it's nearly foolproof for the big owner to buy these horses. And we know they're competitive races. So if you have a 4-year-old after putting in a good performance, it's as close to a guarantee as you can get when you're trying to buy that horse. And then, what's even better, the horse in second and third have a value as well, because the race is so good. So not alone the winner's commercial nowadays, the second horse, the third horse, and possibly that little horse that was unlucky, that made a bad mistake. So there's people sourcing good horses out of everywhere in these 4-year-old maidens at the moment. The facilities that are available to trainers nowadays is exceptionally good. So we've got all these training facilities in the Curragh. We've got your schooling hurls in Tipperary and Thurles, Glencairn. Boulta is a big favourite of mine. It's an unbelievable facility. You've got all these all-weather schooling facilities. I have one. Everyone has one nowadays. So the quality of training that the horses are getting is going higher and higher and higher all the time. And maybe the horse is getting better because lads are spending more money and buying the better horse to come back upon a point. But a horse is still a horse at the end of the day. But I think the facilities are getting very professional, and riders are getting more and more professional, because there's aids there now. Like there's the jockey equip, and there's all sorts of different aids there. There's jockey coaching nowadays. There's the race centre that's open to professionals and amateurs. There's all sorts of physios, psychologists, nutritionists. You've got everything there in race at the moment. So I think the standard has improved for jockeys, the schooling facilities have improved for horses, and people's knowledge possibly has improved as well. John Bunn was an exceptional horse. From the first day he ever crossed over an obstacle, he was just so natural. Yeah. He's temperamental now, John Bunn. As we see, he was always highly strung. I think Elmarie done a wonderful job in nurturing that horse. I remember his last bit of work. We'd done a bit of work in Boulta, roughly around this time of the year. The ground was soft, and there was 3 horses came up the straight. 3 4-year-olds came up the straight, and so John Bunn was gone. I was riding John Bunn. He was gone 10 lengths. It was 10 lengths back to the next horse. It was a Sholokov horse. Sholok Jack was his name. And then there was another 10 lengths back to a getaway horse. Doc Pick Me was his name. So we came back in, and Paul was there and Elmarie was there. So John Bunn stood out. That was fine. The second horse seemed to be fine. The third horse was nearly tailed off, and I said, I think one's exceptional, one is good, and one is grand. So we chatted about what was the best thing to do, and I said the safest thing now that happens here is you run the grand horse first. So Doc picked me, ran in Ballycahan, a 4-year-old maiden, and he wins it. So you're moving forward 10 or 15 lengths to Shallock Jack, goes down to, if he doesn't go down to Corramore maybe, one of them tracks down in Waterford, he wins. And John Bond rocks up in Drumhan and pulls the cart around after him and wins. It was a real good period of good horses, and your man just stood out miles, always, yeah. I used to get all the Point to Point videos, all of them, yeah. We had a stack load of cassettes. Oh my God, I'd say there's a box out there and there could be hundreds in it. Do you know, every one of them every Sunday is come home and watch racing every Sunday. Every Sunday evening in my house, we'd sit down on the couch, all of us, and watch the day's racing. Everybody, not just me, all the winners, every day. And you'd always watch the good riders. You'd always watch Davy Russell creeping around the back and winning, or John Thomas. John Thomas was very tactical. He'd find a bit of ground where no one would find it, you know. You'd watch different jockeys doing different things and different horses. But the good ones always done something that was a bit different, you know. The fella going along in the pack was just a jockey. But then you'd have Davy Russell out the back and he's tipping around, he's sparing his horse. And then you could have John Thomas up against the inside wing there, finding a nice little slip of ground that no one knew was there. So you'd just watch them lads, you know. You'd watch the lads do something different and try and mimic it. John Kiley was always an amazing man to chat to after a race. I can't pinpoint any specific bit of advice, but I think by just trying to mimic the man was as good of it as anything for me. I worked for John and I rode his bumper horses for 8 or 10 years, and he used to come in every day and I'd sit down beside him inside the weigh room and we'd chat for a minute or two, and the way the man behaves and the way he treats people and everything about him, I'd love to be more like him if I could. So I think maybe there's advice in that. Find someone that's admired in the community and try and behave like them. A little bit unknown. I really enjoyed the Goffs job, and I hope that I can keep the Goffs job going. I really, really do, because I think that's my association with the Point to Point world. Forevermore, if there's a job there for me, you know. The training of the horses at the level I'm at, you know, there's a nice bunch of horses out there. With the facilities I have and the stables I have and the staff numbers I have, I think the number of horses really suit me. So I don't think that's going to get any bigger. So my lifestyle isn't going to change a whole pile. How long am I going to be a jockey for? That's an unknown question. It's tricky that I don't know how to say. If someday I hop off a horse and I say, fuck it, I didn't enjoy that and this is not for me, then it's all over. I'll walk in that day and throw my saddle on top of the bag and I'd say, that's it, lads, I'm retired. And you know what? I can't say, I don't know. I rode 2 winners last Sunday. A 4-year-old winner for Sam Curling and a 5-year-old filly for Darryl Deacon, and I was as happy as Larry coming back the road after riding the 2 winners. Awful hard to replicate that. I think so. It's very nice when you do the right thing with a horse and you produce him well, you keep him sound, and you produce him to run a good race. And to know that your graft for the last 7 or 8 months has been worthwhile. I don't know if I could handle big numbers, because I really like to be involved and I like to see what's going on all the time. So getting into big numbers, I don't think is something that would be for me. I like to be as close to the action as possible, and maybe the day that I'm not riding horses, the urge to train them mightn't be on me, but I think I am spoiled. You know, when I have good staff, I can trust the lads to work away, and I know it's done properly. I can see good schooling, I can see good work, I can see well-mannered horses, and that definitely makes it easier for me to stand on the ground and watch the lads. Oh Jesus, there's very little. I don't do much. I don't have any hobbies. I used to do hurling. I follow hurling, obviously, and not much else. Knocking around with the kids and that, you know, the usual things. If I had more time, I'd love to spend more time with them, but obviously you'd be busy with everything that's going on. Maybe I don't have enough time for my kids. My wife probably tell you I don't, and she's probably right. Yeah. But it'll start slowing down at some stage, and then I'll make more time. But I really enjoy going racing with them. We'd often climb a mountain together there, and a nice Sunday in the middle of the summer. We're in the middle of the burn here. We'd go off there and bring a picnic, or that's lovely. Oh, a tricky one, isn't it? I sure still really like riding horses. Get a great kick out of doing the right thing in a race, getting that nice feeling over a jump, and a horse jumps well for you and settles and behaves, and next thing you win. There's a great feeling in it, and there's great satisfaction coming back into a trainer or an owner and handing back a horse, a winner, and you standing for pictures, and to see the enjoyment and the happiness people get out of it. Yeah, it's a special feeling. Like, it's going to be very hard to replicate that. That's why I'm afraid that I'll never be able to replicate it. So maybe that's why I'm hanging on so long. Carl is local, and there was no rocket science to it. I'd say we're knocking around together for 25 years now. So 20 years anyhow. So no, Carl is local, and we just met one night inside in town. That was it. No big love story or anything. No. Do a bit of everything, to be honest. The kids, oh God, everything you can possibly think of. Yeah, there's football, there's camogie, they swim, they hip hop dancing, they have Irish dancing. There's a couple of them playing music there now. We've been talking about the ponies. The poor ponies don't get the attention they deserve at all, because there's so much other things going on. But they'll find their way. I really just like to have them have a grounding in them with the horses, and if they have a grow for it, they'll come back to it always. Never they'll come back to it, like we all do, So wherever they find their feet, it'll be fine with me. They come every Sunday, yeah. So the girls come every Sunday. They love it. So they have a thing there. So before they were fully sure whether it was track racing or point racing, is it grass or tarmac, Daddy? That's what they used to ask. So if it was tarmac, they weren't one bit happy. If it was grass, they were delighted. So they love coming point racing. Yeah, kit them out there from head to toe in the waterproofs, and it's the nicest day for me. I swear to God, I absolutely love loading up the car with the 3 kids and Carl and myself, and people go climbing mountains, and they go to hurling matches, and they go on boat trips, and they do everything. It's the happiest I am when I can load up my 3 kids and my wife, and we go off to a point and hopefully have a good day, and maybe get a picture taken with the girls, and have a nice meal on the way home, and come home and do the jobs in the evening. We always have to come home and do the jobs, but if you're after having a nice day, it's very easy to come home and get stuck into work afterwards.